Part 33. Dressed as a farm boy, he cheated on his way out of the desert. Author, Delayed Flowering. Chapter 321. Chapter 321. I have 7 backers. Old Mrs. Lee suddenly regretted it. She is so old and confused, how could she say this so easily? Mrs. Lee quickly pulled Ji to her side, patted his back gently and comforted him. Ji, don't be sad, your mother has indeed passed away. At that time, you and your uncle received the news just after you left home. Your 4th uncle rode on horseback and searched everywhere at the 4 city gates, but couldn't find you, so he missed you. Ji took a deep breath, suppressed the shock and complexity in his heart, and whispered back, "Nah, don't worry, I'm fine, I just didn't expect there would be news about my mother, she passed away." The old lady also sighed, remembering the chaos of those days. This matter is really complicated. Let your father talk to you in detail later. Ji nodded. Seeing that his son was in despair, Li Laoer was reluctant to leave. He stood up and pulled his son away. "Let's go, the vegetable garden behind is not finished yet. Go and help Dad." Ji silently followed his father and walked out slowly. Seeing the 2 men disappear at the door, Li Zhensheng frowned and asked, "Mom, what's going on?" Mrs. Li hugged her granddaughter who came out of the house and explained in a low voice, "On the day you went out, the housekeeper of the home mansion suddenly came to report that when they moved the capital here, they picked up a seriously injured madman on the roadside. The old woman has been kept in the yard where the servants of the home mansion live. Now she is crazy and shouts that she is our Li family and wants to see us." We hurried over and saw that it was really the 2nd daughter-in-law. We didn't catch Ji at that time. Fortunately, we brought Jiren back from the college to see her for the last time. Wu Kuihua said that she didn't elope with the same person at the beginning. She was framed by her younger brother Wu Ergu. I heard the news about our family when I was in the Marquis mansion, but I felt too embarrassed to come back. Li Zhensheng really didn't know what to say when he heard this. She was just, well, she died like that. How uncomfortable it makes the 2nd child and Ji feel. Yes, the old lady sighed, the 2nd child is okay. Over the years, Wu Kuihua has made many stupid mistakes, and the relationship between husband and wife has almost faded away, but family benevolence and family righteousness, she is their biological mother after all. Fortunately, after the funeral, Jiren stayed with Mr. Wen for a few days and was persuaded to change his mind. Now it's Ji's turn. The old lady rubbed her temples fiercely. This Wu Kuihua, I really don't know whether to hate her or pity her. I marry a virtuous wife, and I didn't take care of my 2nd daughter-in-law. Mom, don't think like that. Good or bad things in a person's life are all determined by fate. The 2nd brother is not bad now. If there is a suitable one in 2 or 3 years, just get him another bride. Li Zhensheng persuaded his mother with words, but he knew in his heart that his 2nd brother was very thoughtful and it would not be easy for him to find a good woman to spend the rest of his life with. Jiyan was thinking about her brother, so she ran to the back garden and saw her 2nd uncle coming out with red eyes. He knelt down and rubbed his niece's hair. Fu Niu is worried about her brother, so go and stay with him. Jiyan nodded, then opened his little fat legs and ran to the corner of the garden. Ji hugged his knees and sat under the shade of a tree, his shoulders shaking, crying silently. Jiyan thought for a while and quietly sat next to him. Li's family, Ding Wang, has 5 other boys, not counting brother Li and brother Cat, who were finally brought back by his uncle. The elder brother is a benevolent family, the 2nd brother family is happy, the 3rd brother family is righteous, the 4th brother family is happy, and the 5th brother family is safe. It can be said that the characters of these 5 brothers have their own characteristics. Jiren is calm and smart, Jiawen is quiet and responsible, Jiaxi and Jian are naughty and lovable. Jian likes them both and is close to them, but if she said she likes them the most, it is actually Ji, her 3rd brother. Ji is just like those middle school boys in his previous life. He is enthusiastic and bold, and remains curious and fearless about all new things. Like a warm fire, he burns himself and illuminates everything around him. It seems that with him there are no worries and no difficulties that cannot be overcome. She was extremely envious and hoped that her brother would live such a passionate life forever. But at this moment, my brother, whose vitality is as strong as fire, is crying. She tried her best to stretch out her arms and hug her brother, patting his back gently. Ji's back stiffened for a moment, then he slowly raised his head and found that it was his sister. He raised his arms and hugged her chubby little body, burying his face on her shoulder. Funiu, brother has no mother. Mother is not good to me and eldest brother. I don't like her, but if she dies, we won't have a mother. Brother, you still have me, a father, a grandmother, an elder brother and a younger brother, uncles and aunts. We all love you, sew clothes for you, and make delicious food for you. Jiyan tried her best to comfort her brother and said as he thought about his past life, he couldn't help but choke up. Brother, you are already very happy. You don't know that some children are even more pitiful, they not only have no parents, but also no grandparents. They just live alone. One person eats, one person feeds the chickens, one person grows vegetables, and one person sleeping, talking alone. The whole world is like a tomb. Hearing his sister cry, Ji was so frightened that he quickly picked her up and forgot to wipe his tears. Funiu, why are you crying? My brother is fine. Funiu is not afraid. My brother is not pitiful. He is not pitiful at all. He carefully wiped away his sister's tears with his big hands, and murmured in a low voice, if grandma sees you crying, she might peel off my skin. Please spare my brother. It's great that my brother has been coaxed by you, not sad at all. Hearing the good news, he couldn't help but grin. He took out 2 candy from his purse, stuffed one into his brother's mouth, and took one himself. The sweet taste made Ji squint his eyes and close his mouth tightly, reluctant to speak. Jiyan leaned in her brother's arms and whispered, when my brother is sad, if he eats a candy, he won't feel so miserable. Ji nodded, but suddenly felt something was wrong. The little sister is only 3 years old, how can she know so much? As if she has suffered too much and has gained experience. He subconsciously hugged his sister tightly, brother will not let you suffer in the future. Yeah, Jiyan nodded and raised her chin proudly, I have 5 brothers, no, now I have brother Li and brother Kat from my uncle's family. That's 7 brothers and 7 backers. I won't endure hardship. The old lady was also thinking about her grandson. She lay quietly on the edge of the garden and took a peek. She saw her grandson hugging her granddaughter and eating sweets and talking together. It seemed very lively. She breathed a long sigh of relief. Then, quickly go to the kitchen, mix the noodles, chop the fillings, and prepare to make dumplings for your son and grandson to replenish their health at night. People in the village wanted to hear about the excitement thousands of miles away, so they all gathered at Li's house after dinner. It just so happened that the village chief and his wife, the Lu family of 3, Dr. Zhang, Uncle Zhao and others had just eaten dumplings at Li's house, so the whole village was ready. It was rare that the naughty boys did not go outside to play football, but sat quietly next to their parents, ready to listen to stories. Some villagers couldn't bear it anymore and asked loudly, Mr. De, I heard that there is a sea over there in Quanzhou, which is as invisible as the sky. There are big foreign ships and fish as big as houses. Is this true? Li Zhenshen nodded, it's all true. End of this chapter. Dressed as a farm boy, he cheated on his way out of the desert. Author, Delayed Flowering. Chapter 322. Chapter 322, No matter what, it's still embarrassing. The villagers were shocked and stared. Have you seen it with your own eyes, Mr. De? Isn't it possible that such a big fish can swallow a person alive with just one mouth? A fish as big as a house can be eaten by a boat, let alone a human being. Not necessarily. How can you chew and digest the ship after it has been swallowed? Everyone was talking in a flurry, and when they saw that they were about to start a quarrel, the village chief knocked on the table with his pipe and pot. What are you arguing about? Let Mr. De tell you. Everyone was told to shut up. Li Zhensheng smiled and waved his hands. Everyone is right, that kind of big fish is called a whale. It usually lives deep in the ocean. A whale is really bigger than a house, but they don't eat fishing boats, they only eat fish. When you encounter a school of fish, you open your big mouth and the fish and sea water are swallowed into your stomach. Of course, we didn't go to sea and didn't see it with our own eyes, but the fishermen in Quanzhou all know this. The time is short, we only have time to look at the beach. We will go there next time and stay for a few more months. If we have the opportunity to go out to sea, we may be able to see whales with our own eyes. Everyone was moved when they heard it, and someone asked, when will Mr. De go again? He will take one of us with him, and we will also go and broaden our horizons. I am coming too. And I. Seeing that most of the strong laborers in the village were about to leave, the village chief quickly poured cold water on him. You have all gone to the beach. What will happen to your family? It's hard to survive. Everyone laughed and said nothing, obviously still not giving up the idea. How many men don't want to go out and see the outside world? Li Zhensheng thought for a while and said, everyone wants to go out and broaden their horizons. This is also a good thing, but we must not ignore it at home. Fortunately, I will visit Quanzhou often in the future. Let's do this. I will catch up in winter when I am not busy. A few people came to the village to help me, and they rotated like this. After 3 or 5 years, everyone went there. The village chief breathed a sigh of relief, and the villagers also felt that it made sense, and the matter was settled. He also talked about some customs in Quanzhou. It was getting late at night and the people in the village had dispersed. The women from each family took the dried fish, kelp, and seaweed they were given, thanked the old lady, and joked and discussed how to eat them. The night wind blew, their laughter, and the moon occasionally peeked out to watch the fun. Li Lauer closed the front door and checked around. After seeing that there was no problem, he returned to the house. As soon as he entered the house, he saw his elder brother moving a small box 2 feet square. He hurried forward to help and asked, "Brother, what is installed here?" Li Zhensheng smiled and said, "What Manager Chen gave me is probably a novelty that the Marquis ordered people to find on those overseas ships." Li Lauer sighed, "Master Ho really has nothing to say about our family. I hope that Lao Si will stay with Mr. Ho and help him more." The box was very light and the two brothers carried it into the house easily. Everyone was curious and asked some questions, and Li Zhensheng answered again. The good news was a little dozing at first, but after hearing these words, I immediately became energetic. How could she forget such an important thing? When she quietly asked her adoptive father for help in transporting corn and potato seeds, she also brought an extra box of various vegetable seeds. Now, this box of seeds, coated with a golden light from overseas, has finally returned to the Li family. She quickly jumped out of her grandma's arms, ran over, and walked around the box. She was even more relieved when she saw that the seal had not been opened. "Uncle, open it." Li Zhensheng took the key and quickly opened the box. The family members were curious and looked over. I thought it was some rare jewelry. After all, the Marquis was particularly keen on collecting jewelry for Jiyan. In the end, there were some small cloth bags in the box, with copper pipes hanging on the cloth bags. Li Zhensheng took a cloth bag, opened it, and took out a handful of light black seeds, which looked like pine nuts, but were much larger. He opened the copper pipe and poured out a piece of paper, frowning as he read it. How come each of these characters is written halfway? Li Lauer was curious, took the note, and read it carefully. Does it mean that overseas people don't understand our handwriting? The writing is hard to read, and it's not complete. As he spoke, he read with difficulty, melon seeds, edible, fried, until fragrant. Orange Mrs. Lee peeled off a seed, revealing the white kernel. She threw it directly into her mouth, and everyone was shocked to stop it. "Mom, why did you eat it? What if it's poisonous?" "Oh," old Mrs. Lee waved her hand nonchalantly, "how could it be that what the Marquis found was poisonous? Didn't the note say it was edible?" After saying that, she urged everyone, "Look at what else is there. Don't get the notes mixed up." Everyone saw that there was nothing unusual about the old lady, so they continued to open the bags and copper pipes. The old lady took the opportunity to wink at her little granddaughter, which made Ji Yin's face turn red, and she really wanted to find a crack in the ground to crawl in. Thousands of times, I actually forgot about simplified and traditional Chinese characters. Tianwu used traditional Chinese characters here, but when she left the note, she used simplified Chinese characters. Now in the eyes of the second uncle, isn't it just a weird half-character? Some of the characters are even unknown. Fortunately, the whole family was paying attention to the seeds in the box, and no one noticed anything strange about her. Lettuce, this should be lettuce, with green leaves. It can be stir-fried or eaten raw. This is Japanese melon. It can be steamed and eaten, and can be stored for half a year. This is the beautiful carrot in my heart. What does it mean to be beautiful in my heart? I don't know, but you can't go wrong with radish. The family gathered around the box and worked for a long time, and finally picked out the seeds of more than a dozen kinds of vegetables. Tao Hongying took a pack of chili seeds and dried chili peppers and tasted them carefully. It was so spicy that she inhaled, but her eyes sparkled with joy. Based on the chef's intuition, she guessed that this must be seasoning, or a very different seasoning. If you can grow it, you will surely be able to make many new dishes. Mom, let's plant these seeds tomorrow, okay? It was rare for the old lady to see her fourth daughter-in-law so happy, so she quickly responded, "Of course it's okay, but I'm afraid we won't be able to plant it in our garden. I'll ask the village chief to find a good place. Maybe after planting it, these vegetables can still be grown in the future, make money." "Haha, mother is right, things are rare and valuable, and they can definitely be sold for a lot of money," Li Zhensheng reassured his mother, and then said, "When I go to Quanzhou again, I will bring more new things to my mother." The family has finished their fun and is about to take a rest. Tao Hongying called Ji Yi to help move the box back to her room, intending to copy the notes again. Of course the good news will follow. If I don't understand it, she can still make up for it. The old lady nodded her granddaughters for it. When she saw her granddaughter smiling in a flattering manner, as if she was begging not to laugh, she also smiled and led the cat brother back to the house to sleep. Tao Hongying piled the seeds on the table, laid out paper, grinded ink, and copied everything. Ji Yin lay aside and stayed with her obediently, not causing trouble at all. Tao Hongying felt distressed and warmed when she saw it, and whispered, "Fu Niu, go to bed first. Mom will hug you after finishing writing, okay?" "No, I'll stay with Mom." Fu Niu bared her little white teeth and behaved like a good girl, prompting Tao Hongying to hug her and kiss her several times. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Dressed as a farm boy, he cheated on his way out of the desert. Author, Delayed Flowering. Chapter 323. Chapter 323, Making Up for the Situation Before It Is Too Late. My good daughter, you are so considerate. Then wait for me for a while, and then I will grow new vegetables and cook them deliciously for you. Okay, Mom is the best, Jiyan came to her mother's side and happily nestled in her arms. At this moment, there was a knock on the courtyard door. It was heard especially clearly in the dark night. The lights in every room of the Li family were turned on again. Li Zhensheng, Li Laoer and Ji Yi opened the door first and went out. It turned out that the patrol team came with Luz Haiheng. When Luz Haiheng saw the Li family wearing clothes in a haphazard manner, he hurriedly said, "Oh, I came unexpectedly. I hurriedly took my time, but I still arrived in the middle of the night. Brother Lu, where are you from? Come in and sit down quickly. Have you eaten?" Li Zhensheng quickly opened the courtyard door and led Luz Haiheng inside. Li Laoer wanted to be courteous to the old men in the patrol team, but he was refused. The old men said hello and continued to work. Although the grass on the mountains has grown, the melon seedlings are still not as good as the melon seedlings and are not as delicious as the melon seedlings. In order to prevent the little beasts from destroying the melon fields by coming to perform tooth sacrifices, the patrol team doubled the manpower and walked back and forth in the fields all the time. If the Lu family's motorcade hadn't come over and made a lot of noise, they wouldn't have had time to come over. Li Laoer turned around and saw Tao Hongying standing at the door of the wing with Jiyan in her arms, and said, "Brother and sister, please make some simple meals. There are many Lu family stewards and coachmen outside, and I'm afraid they haven't eaten either." "Okay, second brother, I'll cook right now." Tao Hongying put down the good news, so she took her second uncle's hand and went to the main room to listen to the excitement. Tao Hongying put on her apron, and Dong Mei heard the noise and came over to help, so the two lit a fire. "Originally I was going to steam steamed buns tomorrow morning, so I made 2 basins of noodles. Fortunately, the noodles have risen by now. Just put it in the pot and steam it, then boil a pot of rice porridge, stir-fry a small pot of salted mustard greens and shredded pork, and it's almost done." Luz Haiheng felt very sorry to see that no one in the Li family, old or young, could sleep peacefully because of what he had done to him. "After I received the news, I couldn't bear it any longer, so I brought people over from Yunhe town. On the way, the carriage's axle broke, which delayed us for an hour, otherwise we would have arrived at dusk." Li Zhensheng waved his hand and said in a low voice, "These things are valuable, take them away quickly, it will save our family trouble." When Luz Haiheng heard this, he was not polite and asked briefly about what was new in Quanzhou. The more he listened, the more excited he became. "Zhensheng, when you establish yourself in Quanzhou in the future, I will follow you. Go ahead and open your eyes." Li Zhensheng was very happy to have multiple partners. Okay, the north and the south are thousands of miles apart, and many things are completely different. There are also many ways to make money. If you run the business well, you won't have to worry about the business not being prosperous. Luz Haiheng still remembered the important event and said, "It won't be finished before the autumn harvest. I will definitely go there in early winter." At this time, Tao Hongying brought food. Hearing that his steward and coachman had also received hot meals, Luz Haiheng quickly thanked him and once again expressed his gratitude for the thoughtfulness of the Li family. Who doesn't like this kind of family and who doesn't want to make friends with them? When he was full, Luz Haiheng led people to load the corn and potato seeds from Yes yard into a truck and take them away. After a busy night, the village finally returned to calm, and everyone in the Li family could finally sleep. Jiyan was so sleepy that she tried to keep her eyes open to look at her mother, who was lying on the table copying. In the end, she couldn't refuse Duke Zhou's invitation and fell asleep. In her sleep, she was still thinking about how to start studying quickly. She can't always rely on the little memories and small space in her previous life to be lazy. If one day, she really falls down and brings trouble to the family, it will be too late to regret. When I woke up the next day, everyone in the family had already gone about their business. When Jiyan found her grandma, the old lady was watering the vegetable seedlings in the back garden. Seeing that her granddaughter was awake, the old lady helped her wash her hands and serve her custard. When Jiyan was full, he took Grandma's hand and said, "Grandma, Funiu wants to learn to write and embroider." The old lady was surprised when she heard this. She knew very well that her granddaughter was a lazy kid, so why did she suddenly become diligent? But regardless of the reason, it is a good thing that my granddaughter is making progress. She opened the warehouse at that time, took a box of embroidery thread and embroidery needles, a few pieces of materials, a set of 4 treasures of the study, and a box of snacks, and then led her daughter to the courtyard of the village chief's house. Huanayang had previously taken on a large embroidery job at the embroidery shop, and now she was sitting in front of the window with her head bowed embroidering. She was also happy when she heard that Jiyan was going to learn skills from her. Perhaps she was worried that Jiyan was young and lacked talent. From the beginning, she only taught Jiyan how to make purses and other things, and occasionally taught her how to write when she had free time. Originally, she thought that Jiyan would give up after persisting for a few days. Who would have expected that the little fat girl could actually sit firmly, not cry when her finger was pricked with an embroidery needle, and learn to write very quickly? She was really pleasantly surprised, so she thought about it carefully, and then taught Jiyan to write and read for half an hour in the morning, and Swenuhong for half an hour. Occasionally, she would trace embroidery patterns and turn flower ropes, which was a good way to spice things up. The sun rises and the moon sets, and the weather gets hotter every day. It rains during the Qingming festival and goes for an outing during the Dragon Boat Festival. The season is like a rabbit being chased by a fox, running very fast. It seems like July has arrived in the blink of an eye. The vegetation in the mountains and fields has turned from fresh green to dark green, and the crops in the fields are half waist high. In the melon field outside Broken Gold Beach, the jade melons are already the size of pots, and the garden is about to be opened. Mrs. Lee carried a basket and picked a few tomatoes from the new vegetable garden and a handful of green lettuce as she walked home. Passing by the melon shed, she chatted with the village chief. "The weather is too hot, I'm sweating even after taking a few steps." The village chief smiled and shook his cattail leaf fan and responded, "It's almost July, can it not be hot? In another half of the month, it's time to pick melons." Old Mrs. Lee looked around and asked, "It's quite quiet today. No one comes to ask when the park will open." The village chief's face was full of pride. "These city people are all eyeing the melon fields in our village. They have obviously planted big locust trees and big and small wangchuangs, and there are even more everywhere outside, but they all want to buy ours." I was really impatient and asked my second brother to make a reservation. Just like in Hot Spring Valley, everyone who wants to buy will queue up and the price will be determined later. The old lady couldn't help but laugh. "That's good, otherwise the village would be bustling with people coming and going every day." Speaking of this, the village chief asked again, "I heard that the chief steward of the Marquis mansion is here, but is there something wrong with the Marquis?" "It's no big deal," the old lady waved her hand, "it's Funiu's birthday soon. The eldest housekeeper is here to ask if everything is going well at home. I think the eldest son should be back by then, and the Marquis and the fourth son will almost return to the camp. Okay, let's set up a few banquets to celebrate Funiu." When this child was just born, the whole family was running away from famine, and there was no excitement between the 1- and 2-year-olds. Now that the family is doing well, and they have grown a lot of new vegetables, Hong Ying is allowed to show off her talents, cook more good dishes, and have a good time together. Get together. The village chief nodded. "It's time to celebrate. Speaking of which, our whole village has benefited a lot from Funiu. That's what I'm saying first, and I need to look at it again." The old lady didn't say too much. After all, it was too difficult to gather together all the people in the family, those who were studying, those who were going on expeditions, and those who were traveling south. End of this chapter. Dressed as a farm boy, he cheated on his way out of the desert. Author, Delayed Flowering. Chapter 324. Chapter 324, Fruitful and Prosperous Golden Autumn. Mrs. Lee was carrying a vegetable basket, and as soon as she entered the house, Jian, who was wearing a red short-sleeved shirt and pants, ran out of the house. If it weren't for the two little flower buds tied on her head, she would look like a fat boy. "Grandma, you're back." Jian held up a sachet and presented the treasure to her grandma. "I sewed this for Grandma, it's very fragrant." The old lady took it carefully and hung it on her belt carefully, feeling happy and proud. The little granddaughter was already smart, but now she has become even more dexterous. Although the sachet is simple and requires only a few stitches, it is really rare to put it on a child. You must know that according to the old rules, a child is considered 1 year old when he is born, and Fu Niu is only 4 years old now. But she still couldn't help but blame her granddaughter. "Why are you wearing these clothes again? You are a girl, you shouldn't show your arms and legs like this." Jian hugged Grandma's arm and said coquettishly, "Grandma, it's too hot, I'll just wear it at home." The old lady couldn't help it, so she tapped her granddaughter on the forehead and said, "I'll send you to learn needlework. You're not very good at needlework, but you've ruined your master by making you such nondescript clothes." Jian smiled and refused to say anything. She worked hard to learn female beauty, of course she wanted to benefit herself. "It was fine when I was 1 or 2 years old, and it was okay to wear a belly band when the weather was hot. But now I am a big child, and I can no longer run around with my back bare." This set of half-sleeved clothes and trousers was made by her with great difficulty in getting her master to help cut and sew it. Her coolness throughout the summer depends entirely on it. Grandparents and grandson were bickering when the courtyard door was pushed open, and Jia and Jiaxi and Cat brother ran in, with beads of sweat on their foreheads. When they saw their sister wearing cool clothes, everyone looked at Grandma eagerly. "Grandma, it's hot for us too, so we have to wear clothes like my sisters." The old lady gave each of them a slap in the face, laughed and cursed, "I know, I've already cut them, and I'll let you put them on tomorrow." "Great, thank you Grandma," the boys cheered, threw down their school bags, hugged the sheepskin ball and ran away without a trace. Dongmei heard the commotion and came from next door. She asked with a smile, "Old lady, are you ready for lunch?" The old lady knew that she wanted to help, so she quickly waved her hand, "It's such a hot weather, and I can't eat much. I'll just make some noodles. You don't have to touch them, just help me take care of Fu Niu for a while." Hearing this, Jian immediately ran to find a bamboo hat. He and Dongmei each put on one and headed up the mountain. She hasn't been to the orchard for more than 10 days. She doesn't know how the fruit is doing or whether it has attracted any insects. Last year when the valley was first built, the scenery was ordinary, but this year it is completely different. The bougainvillea planted on both sides of the cliff have completely climbed up the cliff. From a distance, they look like two flower walls falling from the sky. Between the flowers, warm spring water falls, and a thin mist fills the air. It is so beautiful that people can't even find words to describe it. Especially when I sit in the pool below and look up, the mist is refracted by the sunlight and turns into a colorful rainbow that hangs in the sky. Who would not be intoxicated or crazy about such a beautiful scenery? So, in the past 3 or 4 months, the business in Hot Spring Valley has exploded. Many people even wanted to book a place with a lot of money, but the young and old in the village still did not waver, and the number of daily guests was still strictly controlled. The venue is also reserved once every 5 days, and the number of people cannot exceed 100. This not only did not make Hot Spring Valley disliked and scolded, but also made the people of Zindu flock to it even more. Guests came and went in a well-behaved manner, and nothing unpleasant happened. The orchards on the 2 hills are in flowering season in May. The large apple trees are full of ivory-colored flowers. As the spring breeze blows, they fall from the sky above the valley. They are like a fairyland on earth and beautiful. In those days, even if I couldn't enter the valley, Countless guests arrived. They would rather pay money to go up the mountain to enjoy the flowers. To this end, the whole village, old and young, went out together, up and down the mountain, to strictly guard and maintain order, and to watch over the guests not to damage the fruit trees. When the flowering period is over, the guests are satisfied and the whole village, old and young, is exhausted. But the harvest is also huge. Not counting the income from the valley, they only received 1,000 taels from just enjoying the flowers. The village chief made a decision to divide the money among the whole village, young and old. Now, the flowers have fallen, and there are already fruits among the branches and leaves. Dongmei was afraid that Jianyan would fall and have her limbs cut by dead branches, so she carried her up the mountain on her back. The good news is that I looked at it here and touched it there, and I was extremely satisfied. The nursery in the space courtyard appeared after she injured her head that time. She didn't pay much attention to it at first, but unexpectedly she benefited the most from it. The fruit trees on this mountain and the large melon fields at the foot of the mountain are all the work of the nursery. Dongmei couldn't help but pick a fruit, took a bite, and frowned hard because of the sourness. "Miss, this fruit looks quite big, but it's still not ripe, it's so sour." Before Ji Yin could answer, Uncle Wu appeared out of nowhere with a sickle in his hand. When he saw that the outsiders were Dongmei and Ji Yin, he quickly put away the sickle and said with a smile, "It turns out it's you. I thought it was you, a naughty boy from another village came to cause trouble." After Li Laosi joined the army, Uncle Wu took over the orchard. He was also a responsible man and actually built a thatched house in the orchard and lived here 8 out of 10 days. Fortunately, he had the mosquito repellent lotion given by Dr. Zhang, otherwise the mosquitoes would have eaten him. Ji Yin shouted with a smile, "Uncle, Nyunia wants to eat honey." "Little greedy cat," Uncle Wu knocked on Ji Yin's bamboo hat and led them to the shack with a cheerful smile. There are more than a dozen boxes of bees here, and they help when the fruit trees are pollinating during the flowering period. Uncle Wu quickly opened the box, cut out a small jar of honey, and handed it to Ji Yin to hold. "Hurry home and eat. There are too many bees here. Be careful which one stings you into a steamed bun." Dongmei was already busy chasing away the bees surrounding Ji Yin. When she heard this, she quickly called out to Ji Yin, hugged Ji Yin and ran away. The two of them went all the way down the mountain. When they returned home, the old lady's lunch was already ready. Huanyang was sitting under the eaves of the corridor, holding her waist with one hand and talking to the old lady. She was pregnant in the first month of the year and is now 7 months old. Her belly is very big. Dr. Zhang checked her pulse and said she was having twins, so the whole village took extra care of her. Whoever made delicious food would give her a bowl. Especially for the Li family, the old lady goes there almost every day to see how much food and supplies have been arranged. Today I was a little busy. Madame Hui came by herself before the old lady came over. If she moves around more, it will be easier for her to give birth in the future. Ji Yin jumped off Dongmei's back, ran forward, and gave the master a green fruit. "Master, here you go." Huanyang wanted to wipe the sweat from the little girl, but after just one glance at the green fruit, her saliva flowed out unsatisfactorily, so she could only take a big bite. Dongmei's teeth turned sour when she saw it. She had never given birth and she really couldn't understand the taste of pregnant women. How could she eat such sour fruit? The old lady looked at her with a smile on her face. "Sour son and spicy woman, okay, maybe there are 2 boys in her belly." Huanyang hugged her belly, her face was full of happiness, and she asked in a low voice, "Auntie, Fu Niu's birthday will be in a few days. Will the Marquis and the others come back?" End of this chapter. Dressed as a farm boy, he cheated on his way out of the desert. Author, Delayed Flowering. Chapter 325. Chapter 325 Tianwu's number 1 melon-eating crowd. "Haha, you want to ask Daong if he can come back," the old lady joked and pulled her to sit down. "The Marquis looks cold, but he is actually the most soft-hearted. Even if he can't come back, he will definitely send the fourth child and Daeong back for a visit. Don't worry. Huanayang blushed. I'm not worried about it, or the child is getting older, and I don't know what to do. This is your first time to have a baby, so of course you are worried. Don't worry, I heard that the barbarians in Gyeongbei were killed again. Maybe Daeong will come back this time and stay by your side until the baby is 1 month old. Seriously? Absolutely. I heard a few words from the chief steward of the Ho mansion. I can't be wrong. The old lady made Huanayang happy and invited everyone to eat. After dinner, Dongmei accompanied Huanayang back, and Jiyan and her brothers lay down on the mat under the eaves of the corridor to take a nap. The old lady was sitting aside sewing clothes and trousers for her grandchildren. Occasionally she picked up a big cattail leaf fan to help the children drive away mosquitoes. In the scorching summer, the cicadas are heard, and the sky is extremely blue and clean. Jiyan squinted her eyes and fell asleep without realizing it. It was her birthday soon, and everyone in the family was very happy, but she actually felt it was unnecessary. Other children like to grow up, but she wants to be a child all her life, carefree, loved and pampered, with all her relatives around her. It's a pity that time will not stop because of anyone's hope. In the blink of an eye, it's 7 or 8 days again. This day has just dawned, and the dew in the fields is still heavy. Yawned as soon as he heard the good news, he was carried to the melon field by his second uncle. The village chief stepped forward and coaxed with a smile, "Fu Niu, please help the village chief's grandfather to see if the melons in the field are ripe." "Which one is ripe? Pick them off and we will send them to the palace for the emperor to eat." As soon as Jiyan heard this, he immediately became energetic, jumped off the ground, and ran around in the melon field. I have to say that with last year's experience, the melons grown by the villagers this year are even better. There are no weeds in the ridges and furrows, the melon vines are all pinched to their tips, and melons with taproots are rare. Nowadays, each of the jasper melons is as big as a pottery pot, with dark green skin, lying lazily among the melon vines, making people salivate just looking at them. Because he had to pay tribute to the palace, Jiyan picked melons that were 9 mature, ripe and round and beautiful in shape. As for the golden fruit field, it is even easier. When the tail of the melon is touched, the melon base will fall off easily and it is ripe. Soon, 60 jade melons and 120 golden fruits were loaded onto the car. There were some melon vines stuffed around the carriage, giving it a wild look. The village chief and Uncle Zhao drove the carriage in person, and Li Laoer, Lu Biatu and Yeshan got into the marquis's carriage and followed behind. Hyperlogically speaking, this lineup is pretty good. But a dozen villagers were worried and wanted to go to the city to watch the excitement, so they begged the village chief to take them with him. The village chief simply waved his hand and said, "You can go if you want, but don't complain if you can't enter the palace gate." "No, let's just see what the palace gate looks like." The villagers were so happy that they walked on both sides of the carriage and escorted the melons into the city without riding in the carriage. The Broken Gold Beach is 30 miles away from the new capital, and when we reached the city gate all the way, it was already the end of the hour. The gate of the city was bustling with traffic and people, and passers-by were curious when they saw the formation of people in Broken Gold Beach. "There are jasper melons and golden fruits on this cart? Are they ripe so early?" "No, the rich man Wang of our village found a handful of seeds somewhere and planted half an acre of land. I looked at the results. The melon is the size of a pottery bowl. But look at the one on my car, it's too big." Some people couldn't help but ask loudly, "Brother, where did you buy the jade melon?" The people in Broken Gold Beach immediately responded with a mixture of pride and joy, "We are from Broken Gold Beach, and this is what we grew at home." "Ah, Broken Gold Beach. Oh, no wonder, I heard that the melons from Broken Gold Beach are the best when I saw it today, it is indeed well deserved." The melon garden in Broken Gold Beach has opened, how many should I buy? Follow me and see where they are going to be sold. Buy a few and eat them fresh. While everyone was talking about it, Yeshan took out the token from the marquee mansion and entered the city directly without waiting in line. The carriage drove through the city in a swaggering manner, and it took half an hour to reach the east of the city. Yeshan went to the palace gate, took the token, and gave money to the young at the palace gate. Originally, he wanted to ask the chief next to the emperor to accept the jade melon. Unexpectedly, the chief actually picked him up personally and called the village chief and Li Lao in to answer the question. A cart of jade melons and golden fruits was also carefully carried into the palace. The emperor has just come down from court and is chatting about government affairs with several old ministers. At times like this, he naturally couldn't say much to the village chief and Li Lao. He could only ask about the output of jade melons this year and whether the business in Hot Spring Valley was good. Although the village chief was nervous, he had already met the emperor twice. His etiquette may not have been so thorough, but his replies were honest, and his gratitude to the emperor and the court was beyond words. The emperor was happy to hear this, and finally said to several veterans, "The Broken Gold Beach is a geomantic treasure land. The people are simple and honest, and the fruits they grow are also the best. In a moment, you will take two of you back to have a taste." After saying that, he asked the village chief, "Is it true, old man, that this year's melons are sweeter than last year?" If it were someone else, they would immediately say that they had never eaten it and offer the first bite to the emperor. As a result, the village chief was very sincere, his face turned a little red, and he whispered back, "Your Majesty, originally, all the young and old in our village said that we would dedicate this first melon to you to take the first bite, but I am afraid that this year's melon will not be sweet. Last night, I secretly opened one, it's sweet, it's really sweet." His appearance of a child who was caught stealing made the emperor and the senior ministers laugh. They are all used to intrigues and duplicity, so how could they not like this simplicity and sincerity? "Come here. The people of Broken Gold Beach are sincere to me. They present the first cart of jasper melons and golden fruits in midsummer, and reward 50 pieces of brocade, 100 taels of gold, and 1,000 taels of silver." They ordered the Ministry of Industry to build an archway and engraved the 4 characters Feng Shui Treasure Land on it. The dragon is very happy, and the reward is naturally rich. The village chief and Li Lao hurriedly knelt down to thank us. The village chief also said, "Your Majesty, we just need a memorial arch with the emperor's prestige and reputation, we won't be afraid of anyone bullying us in the future. We don't want this brocade and gold and silver. Your Majesty, keep the gold and silver to reward the soldiers who go on the expedition. There will be a bumper harvest of jade melons and golden fruits this year, and we can sell a lot of silver in our village, enough to feed and clothe every family. Logically speaking, you cannot refuse the emperor's reward. This is disrespectful." But the village chief didn't know that he was speaking with sincerity and he was thinking about the emperor and the court. The chief and the old ministers wanted to scold him, but they couldn't open their mouths. After a long time, when the village chief and Li Lao were filled with fear and confusion, the emperor said, "Okay, then just build the archway." The village chief and Li Lao were relieved and quickly kowtowed and said goodbye. "Your Majesty, you are busy, we are going back. Many people on the road just saw us pulling jade melons, and they were very greedy. I am afraid they have gone to the village to buy melons, so we have to go back and take care of them." End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Dressed as a farm boy, he cheated on his way out of the desert. Author, Delayed Flowering. Chapter 326. Chapter 326, The Royal Feng Shui Treasure Land. The emperor ordered the chief to send the village chief and Li Lao out, and finally side with the veterans. if the people of Tianwu are like this, why worry that the rivers and mountains cannot be recovered, and why worry that Tianwu cannot prosper? Your Majesty, please be patient. This day must be not far away. All the old ministers stood up and saluted. Let's not talk about the situation in the palace, but just talk about the broken gold beach. As the village chief feared, melon buyers have blocked the intersection of the river beach. Those who have made reservations before are still arriving one after another for fear of being overtaken. Those who have not made reservations are also shouting, wanting to buy a few at a high price. At this time, the village chief, Li Laoer, and others rushed back in time. Hearing that the emperor personally rewarded the archway of the Feng Shui treasure land and praised the melons at Broken Gold Beach as the sweetest, everyone went crazy. I will give you 10 taels of silver each and sell me 10 jasper melons. I will pay you 100 taels of silver and give me 5 jade melons. Golden fruit, I want gold fruit, 1 tael of silver each. Everyone in the village felt their hearts beating wildly and were very excited, but they still stopped the buyers and asked them to listen to the village's decision. Li Laoer took out the book and asked people to move 2 tables to separate the guests with reservations and those without reservations. Because the garden has just opened, the jade melons and golden fruits are not ripe enough, so each guest who made a reservation can only pay half. Fortunately, in order to avoid reselling, it was stipulated that a scheduled customer could only buy 10 jasper melons and 50 gold fruits, which solved today's dilemma. After the scheduled guests have been sent away, we start to entertain individual guests. Li Laoer did not raise the price because he was an individual customer, but he only sold 2 jasper melons and 10 golden fruits per person. In this way, it is basically guaranteed that guests who come from afar will not return empty-handed. But in the melon fields, all the jasper melons and golden fruits that were over 80 ripe had also been picked. Jiyan was afraid that the villagers would pick the melons because they were inexperienced, which would be a pity, so she took a bamboo hat and ran around in the fields for most of the day. Finally, we managed to get all the guests away, and the villagers were so tired that their voices became hoarse. Jiyan found out even more sadly that although she avoided getting tan this time, her arms and calves turned into black knots. That night, the old lady was taking a bath for her granddaughter, and she almost couldn't stand upright with laughter. I made you regret wearing shorts and shorts. Jiyan pouted her little mouth, feeling very depressed, but as soon as she left the ear room, she immediately became happy again. Because the 3 brothers were also severely sunburned, their arms and legs were black and white, and they even had a black face. The old lady couldn't help but laugh when she saw her granddaughter rolling around on the mat. Perhaps they all coveted the good sales of the jade melons from Hinton, and Awaishu and Zhuang also started selling melons. Some customers who were frustrated at Sujintan thought that since several villages were so close together, the melons they could grow would be about the same, so they bought some and went back, but they were extremely disappointed. It's not that the melons grown in these 3 villages are unpalatable. They have the same green skin and red flesh, and are juicy when cut into pieces. But when you taste it, the melons from the 3 villages are not as sweet as those from Sujintan, and they lack a lot of melon flavor. After hearing about it, Li Zheng from the 3 villages still didn't want to believe it, so he took his own melons and ran to Broken Gold Beach to compare them. Finally, the 3 Li Zheng were convinced. Obviously they are so close and have the same melon vines, but the melons they produce are not all the same sweet. The village chief uncle laughed and was extremely proud. Our place is a treasure land of Feng Shui. The emperor even rewarded us with archways. Of course, everything we grow will be delicious. 3 Li Zheng couldn't do it, so we went back to discuss it and lowered the price to only 1/3 of the original price. In this way, although the sales are not very popular, it is still smooth. Other families who grew jade melons in various places naturally had to compare the prices, and in the end they also lowered their prices. For a time, everyone inside and outside Zindu knew that Broken Gold Beach was a geomantic treasure land, and the melons and fruits grown there were the most delicious in the world. Amid the commotion, half a month later, most of the melon garden in Sujintan was empty. Only 1 acre of land is left, and the village chief and his people are guarding it day and night, eagerly looking forward to the return of the Marquis and others. And the Li family is also busy with Zhongluo Jiyan's birthday party. One of the big fat pigs in the pig pen must be killed. There is no shortage of vegetables at this time of the year. Buying 2 more sheep will be enough. The women in the village had nothing to do, so they ran forward and helped the Li family with chores. They built awnings and temporary stoves in front of the door and in the yard. Even the Ye family and Kui family next door were cleaned by them. The day before her birthday, Mrs. Kui came over in a carriage early, and she also brought Lu's Haiheng's wife and 2 sons with her. She planned to spend a day playing in the valley and orchards, and then directly attend the birthday banquet tomorrow. Since there were many people at home, the old lady said a few words to Mrs. Lu in the Kui family yard, and asked someone to bring 2 jade melons over, and then went to work. Mrs. Kui is left to help take care of Jiyan, the birthday girl, and she must also entertain Mrs. Lu, mother and son. The 2 boys from the Lu family were both 11 or 12 years old, and they were a little reserved at first, but they were pulled by Jia and Jiaxi, and they went running wildly in the orchard, fishing in the river, and bathing in the hot springs before it got dark. I became familiar with it and played like crazy with joy. Mrs. Kui took Mrs. Lu and Jiyan to enjoy the flowers and soak in hot springs in the valley. When they returned home, Li Lao-san's family, Jiaran, and brother Li also came back. Jiyan was so happy that he took turns hugging his third uncle and his mother, and asked his brothers to carry him on his back. He was as happy as a puppy, running around wagging his tail. In the past few days, the college has been taking baths all the time. Jiaran and brother Li both came back from leave. Li Lao was worried and asked, "Will asking for leave delay my homework? Will your husband be annoyed?" Jiaran smiled and replied, "Don't worry, Dad. My husband happily gave me 3 days of leave and asked me to bring him some golden fruits when I go back." Everyone laughed when they heard this. Fortunately, we have left an acre of land at home for the Marquis and your 4th uncle to eat when they come back. Otherwise, you would have to go back empty-handed. Be careful, sir, to put on some small shoes for you. That's not the case. Sir is very sensible, but he is a bit greedy. My classmates and friends, after hearing what I said, are also clamoring for the jade melon. There are also a few children in Brother Li's class who play well. My husband also takes good care of him. When I go back this time, my family may have to bring us a few more jade melons to make up for it. Jiaran smiled while talking, his face was bright, and it was obvious that he was very comfortable studying in the college, like a fish in water. Brother Li took Brother Cat's hand and nodded with a smile. The family members were relieved when they saw this, so how could they feel sorry for those fruits? Old Mrs. Li said, "When I tell the village chief, you can take as much jade melon as you want. You can be happy in the college. In another month, the fruits on the mountains will be sweet. I will give you more by then." Seeing that the sky was getting dark, everyone was getting ready to have dinner. At this time, hundreds of fast horses suddenly came running on the road on the side of the river beach. End of this chapter. Dressed as a farm boy, he cheated on his way out of the desert. Author, Delayed Flowering. Chapter 327. Chapter 327 Washing Away the Dust. The Li family is very familiar with the sound of horse hooves. Nearly everyone threw away what they were doing and ran out. Sure enough, the 110 people came closer, and the first 2 horses were Li Laosi and Li Yong. The 2 of them have a dirty look, but because they saw their family members, they smiled with white teeth. Before he could get closer, Li Laosi jumped down and rushed to his knees in front of his mother. "Mom, the unfilial son is back." Mrs. Li's eyes were red. She hugged her son and looked up and down. She was relieved to see that he was just darker and thinner, with no obvious injuries. "You brat, you still know how to come back, it's been 3 or 4 months since you left." "Hey, I'm back," Li Laozi giggled, showing off like a child. "Mom, I've made a great contribution, and now I'm in charge of most of the cities." Everyone was confused after hearing this. They were not very clear about the ranks in the army. Fortunately, Li Yong was there. He stepped forward to salute and explained with a smile, "Auntie, the commander-in-chief of the Datu will command 500 soldiers. I am the commander-in-chief of the Little Dudu. In charge of 200 to 300 people." "Okay, okay, this is a promotion to become a general." Everyone in the Li family and the villagers were very happy and started shouting one after another. Li Laozi and Li Yong wanted to explain that Dutong and General were still one level behind, but everyone surrounded them and walked into the courtyard. At this time, Hui Niang also held her belly and followed Aunt Wu. When husband and wife meet, they are bound to burst into tears. Huaniang didn't feel bitter, but she felt aggrieved. She was almost 8 months pregnant and had only seen her husband once. "Fortunately, my husband is back in a hurry. If he doesn't come back, he won't be able to see his father when the child is born." Li Yong also knew that he owed his wife, so he quickly helped her. He didn't care about so many people around him, and held his wife's hand tightly. The Li family and the villagers just paid it back, but the soldiers who came back burst into laughter. Evidently these are brothers who get along very well with Li Laozi and Li Yong. Their laughter reminds everyone. The village chief hurriedly packed up and said, "Come quickly, go to the fields and pick a few more jade melons to quench the thirst of the brothers. Then each family will cook more for dinner and entertain the brothers to have a simple meal. Tonight, brothers, just go to the hot spring valley and soak in the hot springs to relieve your fatigue." Originally, you were not allowed to stay overnight in the valley, but tomorrow is Fu Niu's birthday, so the Li family paid special attention to it, and everyone in the village also followed suit. The village chief thought that he would not have any rest for more than half a year, so he simply made an agreement with Li Lao to close the valley for 1 day. Unexpectedly, this arrangement would come in handy today, providing these warriors who had returned from the expedition with a good place to wash away their dust. The soldiers were all happy and saluted and thanked them one after another. The villagers immediately got busy. The women went home to cook, while the men went to pick jade melons and led their horses to help feed grass and water. The soldiers sat under the big tree at the door to enjoy the shade, and some lit a few small bonfires, illuminating the surrounding area. Soon, the jade melons were returned, and the village chief cut them one after another with a skillful and neat technique. Some soldiers came forward to chat and learned that the village chief and others were veterans who had retired from the battlefield and had also killed barbarians. They were immediately in awe. Soon, each family also brought food. After the soldiers finished eating the jade melon, they praised it for being sweet, and then another rice bowl was stuffed into their hands. Although it's too late to stew chicken and meat, it's still easy to make a bowl of white rice and cover it with thick green onions and fried eggs. It's simple and nutritious. The soldiers were very satisfied with their food, and then they went to the valley in groups. The huge valley was as beautiful as a fairyland on earth. Only 100 of them enjoyed the hot springs and beautiful scenery. The soldiers went crazy with joy and jumped into the pool with roars, and the laughter was loud. After returning from the battlefield, what better place to relax their tense nerves? Li Laozi walked around the valley and saw that his brothers were playing crazy, so he ignored them and went home after giving a few instructions. The whole family is waiting for him to eat. The meal is not very sumptuous, but it is full of the taste of home. Li Laozi tried his best to eat until he was full, and finally he hiccuped before putting down his chopsticks. The dining table was removed and the family gathered around to talk. Li Laozi hugged his daughter, kissed her again, and finally pinched her little face and said with a smile, is Fu Niu getting fat again? The family couldn't help but laugh after hearing this. Don't say that. This girl hates people saying she's fat. Last time she said she wanted to lose weight, but she regretted it after just one meal. Sure enough, Fu Niu hugged her father's neck and protested, I'm still young, and I will lose weight when I grow up. I have to sew my purse, right, and I don't have enough food to eat. Okay, okay, we must eat enough. Li Laozi hugged his daughter, beaming, and became a doting girl again. What's wrong with us being fat? At least outsiders see it and know that our family is not short of rice. After saying that, he took out a dagger inlaid with precious stones from his arms. The dagger is very small, only as long as a woman's hand. It is inlaid with colorful gems. It looks very luxurious and has a strong aura of rich people. I'm so happy about the good news. This is a gem. It can be used to modify several sets of jewelry. Li Laozi was even more happy when he saw his daughter's eyes shining brightly. He gave the dagger to his daughter and said, this is the booty that Dad snatched from the barbarians. I can give it to you as a birthday gift, okay? Okay, okay, thank you Dad, Dad is the best. Jiyan hugged the dagger without letting go, and kissed her father the face a few more times. Li Laozi's heart was filled with sweetness, but he said, Fu Niu is a big girl, and we can't do this again. Mrs. Li defended her shortcomings, you are her father, and even though she is 80 years old, she is also your daughter. Besides, how can you expect a 4-year-old child to be sensible? Jiyan saw his father touch his nose and feel depressed, so he laughed and ran to hug his grandma to show off with her. Before the old lady could even say a few words of praise, Jia 11, Jian and Cat brother couldn't bear it any longer. They crowded forward with envy in their eyes, wanting to see something new. Li Laozi said quickly, don't worry, I have brought you good things. We have bows, arrows, daggers, and sabers. However, the carriage delivering the trophies is moving slowly, and we will rush back first. Seriously, several boys were so happy that they stepped forward and hugged his arms, urging him to talk about the battlefield. Even though Mrs. Li knew that the Marquis must have returned to Kyoto first, she was still worried about it and asked quickly, Fourth, can the Marquis come back tomorrow? Yes, the Marquis said he will come back, but he has to wait until the next court, Li Laozi responded. Old Mrs. Li was relieved and listened to her son talk about the battlefield. Of course Li Laozi cannot talk about the hardships and dangers, but only the joy of winning the battle. The children were full of yearning after hearing this, especially for Jian and Jia 11, and they wished they could immediately pick up their swords and go to the battlefield. Jian played with the dagger, wondering whether she should go back to the wing and live with her parents at night. Logically speaking, she should give her father and mother a quiet world for the two of them after a long absence, but she also wanted to see if there were any scars on his body. As a result, before she hesitated for long, the old lady started to chase people away. Okay, let's go to bed. We will talk about what we have to say later. We will have a banquet at home tomorrow. As she spoke, she picked up Jiyan, took Brother Cat and Brother Li and entered the east room. End of this chapter. Dressed as a farm boy, he cheated on his way out of the desert. Author, Delayed Flowering. Chapter 328. Chapter 328 Envy and Disappointment. Everyone got up and went back to the room. The remaining Li Laozi chuckled and approached his wife. He was pinched on the waist by her daughter-in-law. It didn't hurt, but it was extremely itchy. There was nothing to say all night, and the next day, the whole family got up early. Last night, the villagers helped provide meals for more than 100 soldiers. We can no longer trouble others with breakfast. Fortunately, the temporary stove was set up yesterday. Tao Hongying, Zhao Yuru and Jia Huan, as well as Dong Mei and sister-in-law Kaiyang all came to help, and soon a large pot of rice porridge was cooked. The salted duck and goose eggs at home were also cooked, and golden yeast cakes were baked. Most of it was sent to the valley to the soldiers, and the remaining half was used as breakfast for everyone at home. Since there were Mrs. Lu, mother and son in the Kui family, Tao Hongying specially steamed the egg custard and fried 2 side dishes, and asked sister-in-law Kyan to take them back. Taking advantage of the free time after dinner and before the guests arrived, everyone in the family gave birthday gifts to Good News. The old lady, Zhao Yuru, Tao Hongying, and others were all wearing clothes and shoes. Li Laoer gave his niece a set of small writing brushes, suitable for a little girl like her to practice calligraphy. Li Lao-san bought his niece a half-person high table and chairs for reading and writing. Jiaran and brother Li drew pictures and inscribed them one by one, and drew a picture of a maid for their sister, hoping that her sister would grow up to be beautiful and dignified. Jia and Jiaxi and Cat brother gave their sister their favorite gadgets. Jiyan received the gift with soft hands, and the corners of his mouth were grinning to the base of his ears. Things are not noble or cheap, but the thoughts are the most important. These things represent the full love of her family for her. Soon, Mrs. Kui and Mrs. Liu's mother and son also came over. Mrs. Kui gave her a set of gold jewelry, and Mrs. Lu Su knew Jiyan's preferences and gave her a gold necklace. The 2 boys of the Lu family both had gifts, and they gave Jiyan a hollowed-out carved wooden ball. Perhaps the wooden ball is equipped with a bell. When it rolls, it makes a clear and sweet sound, which is very novel and interesting. Immediately afterwards, Mr. Wen and Lu's Haihang came together in a carriage. The 2 boys from the Lu family rushed to the door to greet them, calling them daddy. Lu's Haihang has been focusing on Yunhee town for several months, and is tanned like a savage. Today, he is wearing a sapphire blue brocade robe, which makes her look even darker. It looks awkward. Not to mention everyone, even Mrs. Lu couldn't help laughing. Lu's Haihang naturally knew it, laughed openly, and then gave Jiyan a gold pixiu, which was as big as an egg. I like Jiyan like crazy, but the old lady thinks it is too expensive. Lu's Haihang waved his hands repeatedly. Auntie, don't refuse. This is hollow and not worth much. It's just to make the child happy. Such a big pixiu, even if it is hollow, would cost 3 to 4 taels of gold. The old lady couldn't refuse any more, so she could only let Jiyan answer, thinking about going around in the future to strengthen the Lu family's etiquette. Mr. Wen gave Jiyan a hand-copied poetry collection, in which he wrote 100 popular poems. Each poem was beautifully illustrated. Today's good news is still a red dress, but it is a masterpiece that Hui Niang has embroidered for half a month. Since the title of Jiyan was not announced, the old lady was cautious and did not use brocade. She only sent a piece of bright red muslin to Hui Niang. But Hui Niang was very handy, so she cut the top into a slanted shirt with 9/4 sleeves and a small stand-up collar, and a pleated skirt underneath. The skirt is embroidered with goose yellow flowers, the cuffs and neckline are all of the same color, and only the skirt is decorated with flying butterflies. Jiyan was already fair and plump, with 2 flower buds tied on her head with a red ribbon, and a gold necklace with a treasure on her chest, which made her even more lovely. At this moment, she was standing in front of everyone, bowing and thanking everyone uprightly, and she looked like a grown-up child in a daze. Mrs. Kui was the first to help her, held her in her arms and sighed. When I first met Fu Niu, she couldn't speak. It seemed like she had grown so big in the blink of an eye. Yes, the old lady sighed, I always want to let her learn something, but after thinking about it carefully, I can't bear to let her go. This girl's family has been the most relaxed and comfortable in the past 10 years. Li Laosi said nonchalantly, our Fu Niu will have a son-in-law when she grows up. If she doesn't get married, it's not like the family can't afford a son-in-law. Everyone laughed when they heard this, and Mrs. Li even laughed and scolded her, you are such a shameless father. How could you care about your daughter and not let her get married? Li Laosi chuckled and said nothing, but it was obvious that he had already planned this idea. The Grn brothers looked at each other and thought this was a good idea. Rather than worry about my sister going to someone else's house and being wronged in the future, it's better to keep her at home, and they don't have to worry about it anymore. Mrs. Lu saw the appearance of the Li family in her eyes, and she was half disappointed and half envious. The envy is of course due to the unity among the various houses in the Li family. If you are not afraid of suffering, you are afraid of the heart of the family. Like the Li family, it is really rare. The disappointment is because of her petty thoughts. The Li family is prosperous, and they dote on their little granddaughter Fu Niu. Now they see that Mr. Li is about to become prosperous, and Mr. Li also has military exploits. If his family can marry the Li family, his son will also have a good in-law in the future. But who would have thought that the Li family dotes on their granddaughter to the point where they are unwilling to let her get married? Everyone was chatting and laughing, and soon began to get busy with the banquet. Originally, meals were prepared for the whole village, young and old, and a dozen guests. Now that there are an extra 100 soldiers, everything has to be doubled. Moreover, when the Marquis comes back, he will probably bring dozens of people with him. Just in case, everyone was afraid that the food would not be enough, so they fried, steamed rice and steamed buns with all their strength. Not only were the temporary stoves built by the Li family put to use, but every household in the village was also busy. Your family's big pot is stewed with beans and meat, my family's big pot is stewed with chicken and mushrooms, hers is stewed with radishes in mutton soup, and next door are 2 large pots of rice with plenty of white steamed buns. The whole village was filled with the aroma of food because of this feast and gathering. Fortunately, there is no shortage of vegetables at this season. If you kill a pig and 2 sheep, you will have enough oil and water for the meal. The acre of jade melons and golden fruits that were specially left in the riverbank land were also picked back. Each table has a large plate cut out and placed in the middle. It is considered a heavyweight dish. Zhao Yuru stir-fried the meat slices in the pot. Seeing Tao Hongying pour a pot of green peppers into it, she couldn't help laughing and said, "This pepper is too spicy. Last time I sent the basket to Luoan, Jia Huan also fried the meat, it was so spicy that I drank a ladle of cold water, but both Jiren and Brother Li liked it." Tao Hongying also laughed. "In spring, I originally planned to plant less, but Fu Niu pulled the bag and wouldn't let go, so I had no choice but to plant everything, and I planted half an acre of land. I thought it was a waste of effort, but I didn't expect that the taste of this thing is really overbearing. I really like it if I like it, but I can't even take a bite of it if I don't like it." At this time, the green peppers were being stir-fried in the pot, and the spicy smell floated out, making everyone in the courtyard cough and ask, "What is this, and why is it so choking?" End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Dressed as a farm boy, he cheated on his way out of the desert. Author, Delayed Flowering. Chapter 329. Chapter 329 The Marquis's Gift. The old lady smiled and said, "It's springtime." Zhensheng brought the chili peppers they brought back from the south. I heard they are a commonly eaten dish in overseas countries. Hongying planted some and thought about a few new dishes. Today, it's lively and gives everyone a taste. So that's it, I'm so lucky today, I can actually eat foreign food. I heard that those people overseas are like monsters, and monsters, with red eyes and green hair, they are very scary. Not necessarily, but it will definitely be different from when we grew up. When Mr. De left, he took a few young people from the village with him. We will find out when they come back. By the way, Zhensheng and Ji are probably on the way at the moment. They may be anxious because they can't keep up with the excitement at home. Yes, it's not easy to go out. Everyone was talking and laughing, and the banquet was ready. All the tables, chairs, and benches in the village have been moved here. There is no room for sitting in the Lee family's house and yard. There are 7 or 8 tables even at the gate. Old Mrs. Lee stood at the door of the courtyard, looking forward to whether her eldest son and his party would suddenly come back. But there was no sign of Li Zhenshen yet, but he saw Mr. Ho rushing over from the next court. "Auntie, how have you been in health these past few months? The Marquis has also lost some weight. After all, he is out in the army and sleeping in the open air is not as comfortable as at home." The old lady grabbed his arm and frowned in distress. "Master Marquis, why have you lost so much weight? Can you stay a little longer this time and cook some food for you at home to replenish your body?" "Yes," and Mr. Ho agreed immediately and said, "I have just told the emperor that there will be no war in Jiangbei for a few months, so naturally we don't need to go out." Seriously, the old lady was so happy that when she was about to speak, the good news had already ran out of the door. As soon as Mr. Ho squatted down, Jiyan rushed into Mr. Ho's arms with a smile. "Father! Fu Niu misses you!" The fat girl shouted loudly, smiling with her eyes crooked, which made the Marquis's impetuous heart immediately settle down. After looking forward to it for several months, it's finally back. Although he is not related by blood, the old people and children in front of him, as well as the fathers and villagers in the courtyard, are all his relatives. The villagers also came forward to say hello. "Master Ho, the jade melons this year are sweeter than last year. I have left a lot for you. Master Ho, please eat a few more pieces. Master Marquis, have all the barbarians been killed? Do you want to go out again? Master Ho, how many days will you stay in the village this time?" Mr. Ho smiled and responded one by one, and the yard became more lively. It was the village chief who shouted to everyone and relieved the Marquis. "Okay, let's talk about it later. If we wait any longer, the food and wine will be cold." Then everyone dispersed with laughter and invited the Marquis into the house. The 100 soldiers last night, plus the personal soldiers who came back with the Marquis now, totaled more than 170 people. The villagers spread out and joined the soldiers to form 20 tables. Everyone ate, drank, and chatted together, and the courtyard and outside were quickly filled. The rest, Mr. Ho, Lu Haiheng, Mr. Wen, Divine Dr. Zhang, Li Yang, the village chief, Uncle Zhao, Lu Baiatu, the second and fourth Li Lao, plus Jiyan, the birthday boy, were all at the table in the main room. There are 2 tables in the east and west wing rooms. The old lady, Mrs. Kui, Mrs. Lu, Aunt Wu, Huanyang, sister-in-law Lu, and others were seated in the east wing. In the west wing room, Jiaran Jiawen brought his younger brothers to entertain the 2 boys of the Lu family. Tao Hongying has not spent every day in the valley for the past 6 months. She has spent her free time planting new vegetables and thinking about new dishes. Today's dishes are mostly her new creations. In addition to tabletop dishes such as chicken stewed with mushrooms, mutton and radish, braised pork with fried beans, and carp leaping over the dragon's door, she also added stir-fried pork with peppers, tomatoes and eggs, twice-cooked pork, meat stuffed with peppers, boiled pork slices, etc. Savory, sweet, sour, spicy, all kinds of flavors are available. Everyone has never seen such a new dish before, let alone eating it. So, while waiting for the good news to eat longevity noodles, Mr. Ho, the most senior person, moved his chopsticks, and everyone couldn't wait to eat. Soon, there were shouts of exclamation inside and outside the courtyard. "Oh, it's so spicy, this thing is much spicier than dogwood. But it's so refreshing, I'm sweating profusely after taking a few bites, it's so satisfying." Of course, most women can't eat chili peppers, but men, especially soldiers, like them very much. Someone even said, "When I was guarding the border in Jiangbei, it was freezing and snowy. If there was something like this, taking a few bites would definitely warm you up and protect you from the cold." These words reminded the Marquis, and he asked Li Lao, "Do you grow a lot of these peppers at home?" "Quite a bit, almost half an acre." Li Lao nodded. "I left the seeds in autumn, so I can plant more next year." "Be sure to save more seeds, and we will discuss how to plant them later," Mr. Ho asked, and Li Lao nodded. Everyone ate and drank, occasionally teasing Jiyan, the birthday girl, and the birthday banquet was lively. As the sun set, the banquet finally dispersed, and Lu's Haihang's family and Mr. Wen all went back. Mrs. Kui wants to stay for 2 more days, and the Marquis also stays. Of the more than 100 soldiers, only 20 were left to guard them closely, and the rest returned to the military camp. The villagers helped to remove the tables and stools, and the women washed and wiped them. They were all very busy. Finally, Tao Hongying divided the leftovers among the women, who took them home and were busy cleaning up the valley. Tomorrow the valley will continue to open its doors to welcome guests. After a day of noisy activities, the Li family were all a little tired. They sat under the eaves of the veranda to enjoy the coolness of the fiery sunset, enjoying the evening breeze and chatting. At this time, the Marquis called out the good news and came forward and handed her a deed. "This is a village with 200 acres of land. The farmer and the steward are all old servants of my mother's family, the Zheng family, and can be trusted. This village I'll give it to you as a birthday gift. You can put it away and ask Yeshan and Dongmei to contact you if anything happens in the future. They are very familiar with it." Before Jiyan could say anything, Mrs. Li had already stopped her. "Master Ho, this is too valuable. Fu Niu cannot accept it." However, the Marquis insisted, "Auntie, this village is far away, so the land is not worth much, and together it is not worth a set of jewelry inlaid by Fu Niu. Moreover, Fu Niu also needs this village." The old lady hesitated for a moment. She understood what the need in the Marquis's words meant. "Instead of letting my granddaughter take things out from time to time and risk being discovered, it is indeed much safer to have Zhuangzi as a cover. But it's still too expensive." As a result, before the Lord was finished, he took out 3 more deeds of betrayal. "I rushed back to the city last night and went to the palace to ask for 3 helpers from the emperor, a nanny and 2 maids. The nanny is familiar with all the rules and etiquette in and outside the palace. The 2 maids have also been practicing martial arts since they were young, and they give blessings on weekdays. Niu is a playmate and can protect Fu Niu if something happens. In addition, Yeshan and Dongmei will be by Fu Niu's side from now on, so the family won't have to worry about Fu Niu being bullied or having an accident." After saying that, Mr. Ho was probably afraid that the old lady would refuse again, so he added a few words. "Brother Zhenshen will be back soon, and the land will be collected in Chiuri soon. The so-called wealth, fame, and wealth are all attractive, so it is always right to be more prepared." Sure enough, Mrs. Li's face became solemn and she said nothing more. In the past 6 months, the family's life has been stable, and new grains have been planted in Liujia Zhuangzi, so she forgot about this matter. The credit for Po Tian will soon fall to the Li family, so the Li family will not become so proud. But what about outsiders? Will you be jealous or covet it? Knowing that your family values Fu Niu so much, will you have any bad intentions? This is the 3rd update. Please give it a good review and good looking information. Huawei will update it before 3 o'clock in the afternoon every day, so try to be on time. End of this chapter. Dressed as a farm boy, he cheated on his way out of the desert. Author, Delayed Flowering. Chapter 330. Chapter 330. The Little Secret of the Brother and Sister. Fu Niu, please thank your adoptive father for taking so much trouble to arrange for you. The old lady sighed and patted her granddaughter on the shoulder. Of course Jiyan knew the deep meaning of her adoptive father's arrangement for her. If he hadn't thought carefully about it for her, he wouldn't have been able to think of such a way to hide it from both sides. There are also these 3 people, a nun who came from the palace, and a maid who has been practicing martial arts since childhood. You don't need to guess, you know that these three people must be a type of secret guard with a special status. The adoptive father somehow begged the emperor to get her out, just to protect her. Jiyan knelt down directly and said, "Thank you so much, foster father." The Marquis picked her up with his own hands, touched her soft little hair, and said with a smile, "You're welcome, we are one family." "Yes, we are a family." Jiyan nodded heavily and smiled with his eyes crooked. The adoptive father never expected anything in return from her. What he liked and valued more was the word family. Everyone laughed and chatted a few more words, and for some reason they talked about Li Zhensheng, who had not come back yet. The Marquis said, "I will send someone to the south to greet you tomorrow. I estimate the time and we should not be far from the capital." "Okay," the old lady was also happy. "Originally I wanted the fourth child to go, but I couldn't bear the thought of him going out for a run just after he came back." "Don't worry, Auntie, there are all idle people in the Ho mansion. I'll just let the housekeeper make arrangements." Mr. Ho comforted him. The old lady was full of praise for the enthusiastic and thoughtful housekeeper. "The housekeeper is a good person. He delivers things to our house every now and then. I heard that Fu Niu had a birthday before, so he even specially sent some silks, satin, chicken, fish, meat and eggs. I told him to come for dinner today, but he can't leave. When you go back, help me bring him some food as a thank you gift." "Okay, Auntie," Mr. Ho responded. While we were talking and laughing, the sun finally set completely on the top of the western mountain, the rays of light faded little by little, and night fell. Everyone dispersed, each washed and rested. Jiyan was anxious to ask her adoptive father, Zhuangzi, about the details of the manpower, and told her grandma that she would stay next door for one night. As a result, before she could get out of the hospital, she saw Jie Huan walking in circles in the courtyard. She ran over and hugged her brother's leg. "Brother, why don't you go to bed? Are you tired from cooking today?" Jie Huan knelt down, knelt on one knee, held her sister on his lap and sat down, smiling with an honest look on her face. "Today is our little Fu Niu's birthday, and my brother hasn't given you a gift yet." "Give it away." Fu Niu tilted her little head, smiled and kissed her brother on the face. "Brother made a lot of dishes, they are very delicious." Jie Huan blushed and hugged her sister gently. "Our Fu Niu is such a good child." After saying that, he took out a small lock from his arms. It's hard to see clearly at night, but the bright red color is very dazzling, and there seems to be pearls strung in the middle, which is very delicate. "This is for you, Fu Niu. My brother hopes that you will be safe and happy throughout your life." "Thank you, brother." Jiyan put her hands together and hugged her brother with a smile. "It's so beautiful, Fu Niu will wear it well." Jie Huan's face turned even redder, and he patted his sister's back gently, and begged her in a low voice, "Fu Niu, your family asked you where this hair came from, could you not say it was from me?" Jiyan guessed that this lock of hair was very valuable, and her brother didn't want his family to know that he was frugally buying this thing, so he quickly nodded in agreement. "Okay, brother, don't worry, Fu Niu won't tell." Jie Huan secretly breathed a sigh of relief and felt more at ease. "Although my sister is young, the brothers in the family all know that my sister is very smart, and they will definitely do it if they promise." "Are you going to the next door? Brother is carrying you on his back. It's dark, so don't fall." "Okay, thank you, brother." Jiyan happily climbed onto his brother's back, and the lock in his hand was right on Jie Huan's chest. Dangling back and forth made him smile even more brightly. Dong Mei happened to come out of the house. When she saw the brothers and sisters coming, she smiled and said, "The Marquis was asking me to pick up the young lady. If I didn't want to, the young lady came over." As she spoke, she hugged the good news. Jie Huan rubbed his sister's hair, then said goodbye and went back. Dong Mei couldn't help but said to Jiyan, "Fu Niu is so lucky. All your brothers love you very much. Of course, Fu Niu's brother is the best, Jiyan responded with a smile, and hid the hair in the space with her backhand. Mr. Ho was sitting at the Kong table, looking through some documents. The night wind blew in through the half-open window, shaking the candlelight and distorting the shadow reflected on the wall. As soon as he got on the Kong, he crawled over and sat in his adoptive father's arms, and put the book down. My adopted father doesn't read, and Grandma said that my eyes hurt when I read at night. Mr. Ho found it funny, but he still responded, I won't read it in the future, but I'm here to help you read it tonight. As he spoke, he pulled up an account book and said, the zhuangzi I just gave you is the property of my mother's family, and it is also managed by my mother's family's servants. I didn't pay attention to it before, but now I find that the account books are backlogged. I've kept it for 7 or 8 years, and I'll give it to you when it's sorted out. There are also about 100 people in Zhuangzi. They are men, women, old, and young. They all have some skills. What they are good at is also written down and taught to you. In the future, if you want to make something useful or want to recruit people, you will have an idea. Jiyan was stunned for a moment. She originally thought it would be a good idea to have a farm where she could smuggle things out of space. Who would have thought that his adoptive father would not only give him a zhuangzi, but also a large logistics team? Father, she wanted to say that this was too expensive and too troublesome. But the Marquis rubbed Jiyan's little head dotingly and didn't give her a chance to speak. Don't be burdened by Fu Niu. You are my daughter. These things will belong to you sooner or later. Now I will give them to you early. Once I have something good, I feel more at ease. Father, Jiyan frowned and pursed her lips. She especially didn't like the way her foster father was always ready to die in battle. The Marquis smiled in a flattering manner and quickly comforted the angry little girl, my foster father was wrong. I won't say it again, okay? After saying that, he spread out the account book again so that the little girl could see it clearly, but he sighed deeply in his heart. Children are still young, so they don't know that things in the world are impermanent. No one can predict the accident and who will come first tomorrow, not to mention that he is still a military prince. It is normal for him to lick blood from his knife edge and hang his head on his belt. He was able to return safely from this expedition, thanks to Li Laozi and Li Yong, who sacrificed their lives to save him several times. Even so, he was still hit by 2 arrows in the arm, and Li Laozi and Li Yong also had 5 or 6 stab wounds on their bodies. Of course, they must not talk to their family about this, but it also strengthened his determination to hand over all the power of the mother clan to the little girl as soon as possible, and urged her to take control of these powers as soon as possible. If he is really unlucky and he dies early in the battle, the Li family has contributed to the food donation, Li Zhensheng is doing business to make money, Li Laozi has also established a foothold in the army, plus Wen Yushi and the Lu family, the Kui family helps, and at least no one in the Li family dares to bully. Jiyan didn't know that her adoptive father had plans, so far-reaching plans for her and her family. She was just surprised that what was recorded in the account book was that Zhuangzi's background was unexpectedly deep. This small village 100 miles away has only 200 acres of land and more than 100 employees. However, it also runs a carpentry shop, a snack shop, and a grocery shop outside. Although the 3 shops are not big, their profits are very good. It is obvious that they have accumulated a good reputation over time. No wonder, the foster father did not interfere for many years, because Zhuangzi could run smoothly without his intervention at all. End of this chapter.